Hello everybody, my name is Marcus. Welcome to an Automation Light Campaign Let's Play. We're playing here today in Light Campaign Automation V4, the most recent update both on the open beta and on the main branch right now. And I posted a Reddit poll a few days ago asking people what kind of car company they thought I should play as, and the winner, overwhelmingly, was a budget car company making simple and reliable family cars. So that's what we're going to play as. I think our company name, I've thought about it a little bit, I think we're going to go with, if I take my caps lock off, Consolidated Motor Cars Incorporated. I'm a big fan of like these really early 20th century, like very generic sounding company names. I don't know why. Alright, now for a starting country, there's a little bit of a decision to make. Killrob has a Let's Play right now where he did one starting in Furuina, playing as economy cars, and that's a good choice because Furuina has relatively low labor costs and they get the earliest access to all 5 markets. Also, Arcana opens up for them in like 1950 for them to produce in. So if you wanted to, very early on, you could start producing cars in Arcana, the cheapest country. The other major contender would be to just start in Arcana itself and have lower labor costs all along, and of course have the advantage of having our starting factory in that country. Or maybe to do Hetvasia, you get access to the big 3 markets right up front, but you have a much higher labor cost. Much higher skill as well, but we don't need the best of the best for our cars. Slightly lower taxes than Furuina, also. Let's see. I think we will go with Hetvasia. What I usually like to do for light campaigns, crank the difficulty up to insane and then adjust it back from there. We are going to start with at least medium factories because you can't really produce budget cars in anything less than a medium factory. You need the steel presses to do it. We're going to leave it on 100% difficulty, and I'm going to give myself just a little bit more money. Maybe 200 million? I think that's a pretty reasonable start. How much does it tank the score multiplier if I give myself large plots? Quite a bit. Alright, yeah, we'll leave it with medium. We'll play it not on easy mode. No dealerships. Alright, sounds good. Just over a 4 score multiplier. That's not too bad. And we're off. And we're going to create from scratch, of course. First car. Going to target that family budget segment. We'll go right for the jugular. Now, in terms of body choice, there's really only one body that you will start off with here in the early game that I think makes sense for the budget segment. We'll go for this one right here. It's the little tiny 81-inch wheelbase sedan / multi-body. Panel material steel, of course. Ladder chassis. I don't know if we can spring for a Galvy plant right up front. It would be nice, but on the other hand, we only have 200 million. We're going to need most of that just to buy our first set of tooling. Let's build it in just for now. See just how unaffordable it actually is, and then maybe we'll revert back to steel if it's too expensive. But it would be nice to have it because we're probably going to use Galvy steel for the remainder of the game. Like, all of our cars are going to be made out of Galvy. It's just the material that gives you the best balance of, I think, price to corrosion resistance. Suspension types, we are going to spring for double wishbone in the front. We're not going to be quite so cruel and brutal as to give people a solid axle in the front. It's not an off-road car, but it is a budget car. And that means in the rear, we're going to keep it real cheap and simple with a solid axle leaf. And you may think that's crude, but it actually would have been a totally acceptable choice, certainly for a budget car at the time, and even a lot of just normal, non-budget family and even slightly upmarket cars, especially here in the United States, would have still had solid axles with leaf springs back then. But I am, because I want to keep this chassis in production for quite a while. I want it to have good service life. I'm going to pop 1, maybe even 2 points of quality in, because that's going to help us stay current with the safety standards for a long time and keep without adding in like absurd advanced safety and things like that. And this will be a little bit more upfront investment, and also it doesn't take all that long just to engineer like a ladder chassis with a solid axle leaf on the back. It's fine. Now on to our first engine. Okay. Well, now the debate here, inline 3 or inline 4. Inline 3 is of course cheaper, but really not all that much cheaper. We will go for an inline 4 because I think I want to make this engine just a little bit bigger and more than what we need, because I want to have a little bit of room to grow into it. Again, I want to be able to use this engine block for a long period of time, because that's how you get good reliability. Just use the same thing over and over and over again and just improve on it. We're going to take the size down. Definitely don't need 2 liters. What do we do here? Definitely want more stroke. Maybe 3.6 is a nice stroke. Big undersquare inline 4. And then I think what we'll do, we'll make the engine family size 1.6 liters. Cast internals, of course, but the variant, we're going to take it down to about 1.4, I think, would be a nice spot to start off with an economy car. That's probably, honestly, that's probably plenty more power than we need, even at this time. Also, our stupid little single-barrel economy carb is going to choke it anyway. Cam profile, we'll crank that right down to 25 for good economy. Might even need to go lower, we'll see. But I find that there really isn't much benefit outside of, like, in utility vehicles to going much below 20. Like 25 to 20 seems to be the sweet spot just for like raw fuel economy. Going lower than that, it gets you more torque off of idle, but it doesn't really seem to make the engine any more economical, at least on paper, in current automation anyway. Compression, peg it at 7.5. We'll come back and tune it. Single barrel eco, of course. It's slightly cheaper and slightly more economical. And did they add in twin carbs for this? I thought they didn't have that. Oh well. Regular fuel, lean it out. Ignition timing, we'll optimize it pretty low for about 2,500. That seems right. And we'll be doing well to get 4,500 RPM out of this thing, out of this little boat anchor of a motor. I don't think I discussed earlier the choice to go with push rods. They're just adequate. This is a budget car. It's about reliability. The fuel economy penalty is not as great as you might think. I've observed anyway. You can still get a decent economy motor with push rods, but it's mainly the low cost and reliability that we're going for. Short cast headers, single baffled muffler, a little bit of knocking, not so bad. Take the exhaust diameter down to about 1 inch. We have some valve float, compression, obviously needs to go down even more, about like that. Little bit of valve float, maybe can we pop 1 quality point in? That also helps the fuel economy a little bit. 15%, that's not too shabby for early game. That's okay, and pretty reliable too. And then we'll also just pop 1 quality point into fuel system. Popping some quality points into fuel system makes a big difference for reliability. That helps a lot. It weighs 285 pounds for 1.4 liters? That's disgusting. But we don't care. Can I get 1 more out of this? Yeah, I can squeeze even 1 more out of it with our upgraded carburetors. All right, great. How is our exhaust tuning? Do we want to grab even 1 more out of that? Yeah, I think we do. It only costs 1.3 horsepower and 0.96. We're choked on the carburetor anyway. And that brings our fuel economy up to 15.6%, or not fuel economy, but rather fuel efficiency. Makes it slightly quieter as well. So I think that's good. We'll start with that. We'll give it a quick listen. Oh yeah. Ah, love the sound of that buzzy early game 4-cylinder. We'll take the sedan body, 4-door sedan body. The wagon would be an interesting candidate because it has more volume, but it only has 3 doors. And this platform would also make a really good light delivery vehicle or even a utility vehicle, but at least for now, I want to really try to stay focused on passenger vehicles because that's sort of what I promised in the poll, so I feel like it would be. And I also feel like it's a little bit cheating to make both a budget car and a delivery van right out of the gate. Like, those are, right now, I think in automation, the 2 easiest segments to make money in. So I don't know, I feel like it's a little bit unfair to go for both of them right off the bat. We'll be balanced. I'll come back to the design on this in a minute, but for now, I'm just going to make our volumes a little bit bigger, widen the fenders a little bit so we can put a little bit of spacing on the wheels, scotch more cargo room, something like that. Okay, that looks good. We will come back to the design later. Rear wheel drive is our only choice right now. We'll give it a 3-speed, that should be plenty. I'm pretty sure the budget demographics might even prefer a 2-speed, but we'll see. Gear it about like that for starters. Hard long life, of course. We probably don't need 135s. Maybe we take them right down to 125s. It's probably enough. Slightly larger rims so we can fit slightly larger brakes. Space these puppies out so we can have more comfort. The budget segments do like comfort, and this is going to be a small car with a basic interior, so we are going to get hammered with comfort penalties pretty quick. We'll start with that, maybe just slightly larger wheels. Not that large. 23 inches. Perfect. I am playing the game using US measurements just because that's what I'm more familiar with. Let me know if you really prefer metric, that's fine with me. I can switch it over, but just let me know what you think below if you want to stick with the US measurements or switch over to metric. Brake size, we're going to max out both of our brakes, drop it down. Doesn't really, it's a light car, it'll stop fine. It'll stop fine. That's the 1940s, you don't need to stop. Okay, that should be good. No under tray, cooling airflow. This helps reliability and it helps the car, like, you know, if you're going up a steep hill loaded up with luggage on a 100-degree day, it'll help keep the engine from overheating. That's a good thing, and it's not that expensive, so cheap way to buff reliability. Just spam a few points into the cooling airflow. Stick with a 2+3 there. Basic interior with no radio, of course. What more do you need? No quality. No quality. What am I talking about? Okay. Standard safety, just a little bit. Just so maybe, oh, that's pretty good actually. 17.6. We might be able to sell this into the 1960s and Premi even. And a pretty good score right out of the gate, and there's our comfort penalty, of course, but we haven't tuned the suspension yet. It's really stiff. Ah, yeah, that's better. Well, actually, it's worse, but the comfort penalty's better. We can fix that. Take all the camber out. We want to tune only for drivability. We don't care about sportiness at all. And we will crank the springs up a little bit. Family budget category, they seem to like pretty stiff suspension tuning. Stiffer than certainly I was expecting. Dampers are hard. Should I make the springs stiffer? That seems to help the score. The dampers are still hard. This thing is gonna ride terribly. It's like the least comfortable car on earth. But that's what they like, I guess. We can take some sway bar out of it. We can probably get away with no rear sway bar at all. That gets us to a nice place in terms of drivability. And we can take even a little bit more out of the front. Oh, that actually hurts it. I think right there. That's what I want. How are we doing on ground clearance? I mean, 11 inches, that looks pretty good. Do we need more? That might be perfect. Let's fiddle with it a little bit. Oh, they do like to have a little bit more. Maybe we take it up to 11.5. Does that look too ridiculous? No, that looks okay. Roll angle's still totally reasonable. All right, now let's go back through and we'll do a little optimization on the gearing. Okay, so gearing-wise, we went for pretty tall spacing here. Or rather, pretty tall gearing with fairly wide spacing. You're kind of limited because you need to gear out all the wheel spin, so the first gear is honestly even a little bit taller than I would like. We can eke out just a little bit lower. Squeeze a tiny bit out of drivability. And I don't think we need any quality points anywhere. Let's fiddle with the brakes a bit. Do we want maybe just slightly less bad brakes? No, we don't. 1 point of quality? No, no points of quality. We don't care. But we can balance them a little bit. Something like that. Yeah, that seems optimal. So it'll lock the rears and get decent traction on the front. That's pretty good. Okay braking distance, no fade anyway. All right. Well, this might just be our starter car right here. I'm going to stick with one trim for now. I want to keep the engineering time under control, and I want to be able to run that reliability slider pretty hard. That's my game plan for most of this campaign. Just do simple cars, and we can just kind of jam on that reliability slider, and that way we can produce just super reliable, bulletproof products. There's nothing to break on them. That's really our goal for this game. Just unkillable cars that really don't have any other redeeming qualities, to be honest. Last question is, what should we call it? Here's our naming for it. We're going to call it the Liberator, because this is the car that's going to liberate the masses and bring personal mobility and traffic jams and parking competition and car-centric transportation models to the people. It's going to liberate them. That's what we're going to do. Engine is the Bumblebee 1.6 because it's buzzy sounding. Why not? And finally, we'll do the design. And this is another one. I'm going to start off just by designing this car. Let me know if you guys want to see this or not. Okay, so here's our design that I just kind of threw together. It's very ugly, but I think it's just enough to get the job done. Like I said, I just really want it to look like a car. I don't know, just kind of helps me get buy-in for the whole campaign if when I go in my BeamNG export folder and see stuff that maybe it's not pretty, but it does at least look like cars. That's what I'm going for here. I don't think it looks... It's supposed to be ugly. Yeah, it's supposed to be ugly. We'll go with that. Okay. I guess my one question going back and looking at this is, do I want to make it have a slightly larger wheel so that we can fit a slightly larger brake drum? Let's try it. Hold the car, bring that up. We don't have to make our wheels any smaller. And, well, they like that worse, and it's more expensive, and it's heavier, and it's less economical. Yeah, I think we stick with the smaller wheels and worse braking. That's what we'll do. Take one last peruse through our engine. Got that maxed out pretty nicely. All right, into production we go. Okay, now into factory setup, medium 1. Ooh, now we get to see, can we even afford the Galvey plant? Maybe, just maybe. Well, we might be able to do it. Automation, what's our target automation? I don't actually know what this target automation level indicates. I assume it's like the level of automation at which a factory of this size in this era functions most efficiently, but I'm not sure. In any case, I am going to take the automation down just a little bit to save a buck. up front down to about 40. Tooling quality, we'll leave it at 50 for now. Worker wages, they're already, I would like to run them a little higher so that we can gain some more experience and increase our build quality and reputation, but that's already so expensive in Hedvasia, and the labor quality is already pretty good. This is not that bad for an opening. I do think I want to drop this down just a tiny bit. Oh, that helps a lot on the cost per production unit. Okay, let's see. Engineering, 50 months, good. We can crank some dollars into it. Maybe run that at 90. Drop this down. Not really much purpose in running your tooling slider more aggressively than your automation slider in the factory, I think. Process, we'll drop a couple of points into here, shave some off the materials cost, and the rest we'll just dump into reliability for a clean 60-month engineering time. Okay, and we'll do basically the same thing for the engine, or engine factory rather. Drop that. Okay, we'll put in some more funding. Up to 90%, is that what we did with the other one? I mean, this is, that's a little bit pricey. Yeah, that's good right there, 90%. It seems to scale, it's like not a linear scale, it seems to get more expensive. Like each click is more expensive than the last. The farther you get away from 50, the less efficient it gets. We'll drop that down, bring this up, although, I mean, it's like $10, but whatever. Every little bit counts, I suppose, and we can make a, wow, very reliable engine. We might even, do we take it out of pressure or do we save a tiny bit of money? I think we save a tiny bit of money because we're already spamming that reliability slider pretty hard. Okay. Plenty of production capacity. That's a pretty good trim forecast. I can live with that. I am going to take the target shifts down to 1.7, max shifts to 2. I do not want to run more than 2 shifts starting off in the early game because we are going to be really down to the wire in terms of paying for this first trim. And I'm going to bring this out to 6 years. And we are going to go ahead and sign this baby off. First trim, and we're off to the races. And we're just a little bit over, well, quite a bit over on cost, but I do think we can swing that Galvey plant, and it's something that I think we're going to use for a long time. So what we'll do, we don't need to borrow for all of this. We can just borrow for, we only need, what, 20% of it to make it even? Let's borrow 25%. That's still a very modest monthly payment, and we can bring this out kind of, bring it out to 48 months. Pretty short loan term. That's reasonable. All right. Sign her off. All right, and then the very last thing that I'm going to do before I hit the unpause button and is actually do a little bit of research. I find it's really, really useful to rush radials early on in the game because radials are one of the few technologies that you can pretty much put on any segment and they're a benefit. So I'm going to pop, wow, that's a lot of money. But we're gonna take risks. We're gonna take risks, and then we're gonna, on our first facelift, we're gonna put on radial tires. We're gonna put on 2-shoe drums. This is gonna be an absolute world beater of a budget car, but it's still a budget car. And then we will hit play, let it run for a few years, and then I think in about mid-1948, that's when we'll start funding our dealership network. All right, and we are just going to go for a level 2 target dealership across the board. I think that should be plenty to start us off. And we're going to do a tiny bit of marketing too, just because it's pretty cheap. All right, and here we go. Let's see how it hits. Our first few cars have gone on sale. We're selling at 107% competitiveness with a 43% markup, making a profit with full factory utilization. This is a fantastic start. We're going to run it, because we're so competitive, we can afford to run it a little bit. I still want to get a facelift out pretty quick, but we can afford to run it a little bit just so that I can unlock the 2-shoe drums and the radial tires. I'm even going to pop another point here into the brakes so that we unlock those brakes a little bit sooner, because those are going to be a really useful technology that we're going to stick with for a little while. Okay, here we are in December of 1951, and we are positioned to start our first facelift, but I'm already running at about 35 minutes of footage on this episode, so I think that's something we're going to save for the next one. What I am going to do, though, is quickly hop over to BeamNG Drive, and we can take our first car, the Genesis, where the story starts, for a spin. So let's do it. Alright, here we are in BeamNG Drive with the Liberator, Generation 1, in beautiful fleet white on steel rims. Let's take it for a drive. She sounds great. Let's see how she does. And it nearly stalls right off the line. Oh, Jesus. And the answer, ladies and gentlemen, is it's not exactly a pleasure to drive. But hey, it goes. It's not designed to be good. Wow, it understeers tremendously. I can't believe that. Usually when you build rear-wheel drive automation cars in general tend to be really prone to like wild oversteer, I usually find, but this one, oh man, it just plows right into anything. Oh, it doesn't have enough power to get up the hill. Oh no. Wow. And here we are banging and clattering along. The suspension is extremely stiff. The gearing is extremely tall. The handling is not the worst of any automation car I've ever made, but this was clearly a car built to satisfy automation demographics, not to satisfy BeamNG drivers. But we're going to take it, and it's not. I mean, let's try using that vestigial third gear anyway. Wow. Wow, that is a tall gear. I like to test the cars on this small island map because it's got bumpy roads, so it gives you a little bit of a sense of how the car handles on different types of terrain. And we can take it off-road a little bit just for kicks. The other question I have for you guys is, I am currently playing vanilla automation without any mods, no mod bodies, no mod fixtures. Let me know. I know people have different opinions on it. Let me know if there's mod bodies that you'd like to see, if you think I should use mod bodies or just keep it vanilla. Just let me know what you think. Thanks. So let's take it over the bridge, see how she does. Can this thing get to 60 miles an hour, is what I want to know. Now, somebody also said that they wanted to see this car driven off-road, so here we are on some of these dirt roads here. We'll start this and then give it a shot. Oh, God, come on. So the car actually, surprisingly, it does pretty okay off-road, at least on these dirt roads. The fact that it has less traction actually makes the handling and the gearing a little bit more forgiving, a little bit more drivable. It's pretty fun, actually. I remember very well, at least it was until I spun off. It's still fun. Give it a chance to see what it does when it's really off-road, I guess. Keep hooning it around here. Let's see if we can kick the tail out a little bit. Not really. So when you hit the tail brake,
or rather, when you hit the handbrake, it just stalls. It just stalls the engine. It doesn't really bring the tail out. Lost our bumpers going over the bump. Let's just see how far we can take this thing. Second gear. We're flying 35 miles an hour. This would be, I imagine, fairly terrifying in real life to go almost 40 miles an hour in this car on this road, bouncing around, feeling every little rock transmitted on 125 width tires. Kind of terrifying, really. One tire fire all the way up the hill. Oh my god, it just understeers like crazy. That's why we need those radial tires, folks, so we can actually corner. Well, there you have it. It's the Liberator Generation 1 budget sedan 46, the first car in our game, the start of the journey. So we'll see how it goes. I'll see you guys next time, and let me know what you think. Let me know what directions or ideas you have for this playthrough. I'm open to any kinds of feedback or ideas, and I appreciate it. Thank you all, and have a great night.